Welcome back to the Dynasty Arsenal podcast. This is our fourth episode of our season-long podcast talking all things Dynasty fantasy football. I am Sammy Stacks, back with you, and I am once again joined by my co-host and good friend, Tags. Tags, how was your weekend?
It was pretty good. It was a fun weekend watching football. All the things that happened is what we expected, like Browns beating the Packers and Falcons getting shut out, and yeah, it all played out as we all expected, just like every week. How was your week?
It's just crazy, right? Like, you think you have an idea of what's going on, and then the NFL is here to tell you that you are wrong all of the time. So, yeah, some insane games. What I noticed the most through on Sunday was all the special teams. Like, you're getting blocked kicks everywhere. The Browns, you just mentioned the Packers. The Browns block a Packers game-winning kick.
Yep.
Then go down the other way and make their own field goal to win. We had the Jordan Davis touchdown against the Rams. Punt return touchdowns everywhere. It seemed like nobody was ready on Sunday.
all the leagues that used defenses in their lineups were just like popping off this weekend.
Yeah, it was like the Vikings had 35 points or something crazy, and yeah, a bunch of teams putting up insane numbers. Speaking of the team in the Flock League with the Vikings defense, almost put up 200, which is insane for that league. It's a start 8.
In a start 8, that is wild.
Yeah. Obviously, they have the defense, which adds to it. But 35 points from the Vikings defense was insane. I did get the dub. We're 2-1.
Nice. Moving on up the board. Where are you in the overall standings?
I think 4th.
All right. In playoff range.
There's only one undefeated team. Mr. Mason Dodd is the only team without a loss so far, and I'm playing him in week 4.
Nice. So, bringing down the champ.
Hopefully, yes, that should be really interesting. There's a bunch of 2-1 teams, and I just have the third most points out of them. But rip James Conner. It's sad. Pour one out. I guess you shouldn't draft injury-prone old running backs. Maybe. To be fair, he was. he's been on.
We've been saying that for 2 years for him now, though. So
exactly.
At some point, he's like, "I'll show you injury-prone," and then this happens. So I see it more as like. Kind of Trey Benson's time to shine. All the Trey Benson owners have just been
hopefully
waiting for him to take over the majority workload for years now. So I think as Benson owners, we're excited to see him take over that workload and see what he does with it. It does suck for Connor owners and Connor in general, because him and Najee both kind of sucks seeing them both go down for the year.
Brutal. Yeah, I mean, Connor, such a great guy to watch and an easy guy to root for. And he's been, sort of this unsung hero of fantasy football the last couple of years. Like, just such a solid,
just so consistent
option. So consistent. Obviously, last season, the big thing was that he never played a full healthy year. And last year he made it 16 games. And then I think he got hurt. He was like a little questionable going into I remember it was against the Panthers in week 17. He was a little questionable going in, and then he got hurt and got pulled and like lost a bunch of people leagues.
Yeah.
But yeah, really tough to see. That injury looked like it sucked. I also have Mike Evans, and he's looking like he's going to have a little stint out here with the hamstring injury.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be out for at least 2 to 4 weeks.
They said that he's probably avoiding IR, which is huge, though.
Yeah.
And last year, it was the same thing, right? He had a hamstring. I think he went on IR, had the 4 games out, and then when he came back, he was great. So at least I know that, like,
he's got to hit that 1,000 yards.
He should be okay. Oh, exactly. they're gonna give it to him.
They're gonna force feed him those targets just so he can hit that mark again. Just Mr. Consistent at wide receiver.
Yes.
But until then, it's what gonna be Egbuka and Sterling Shepard,
I guess. Yeah. Kate Otten maybe gets a look, or
how maybe McMillan starts showing, or is he?
He's still out, isn't he? He had the injury at the beginning of the year coming in.
You're right.
He fell on his neck weird.
Neck strain, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Sterling Shepard wheels up.
Buy Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, if you need an easy fill-in flex, I feel like that's going to be your best option.
He might be on Dynasty waivers, honestly.
Dude, he's in most of mine. I was looking today, and it's like probably about 30 to 40% of my leagues he was on the waivers. So
wow, yeah, all right.
He's going to be a valuable pickup this week.
This isn't the Sterling Shepard pod, but you can pick him up, I guess.
No, anyways, let's talk about QJ. We're the QJ pod.
every week we have a mandatory 15 minutes on QJ.
Hey man, I'm just gonna victory lap every week. You guys heard it. If you guys whoever watched episode 1 was able to buy QJ at the cheapest price he's been in weeks. 10 targets, man.
And the first week that we don't upload an episode will be the week that QJ does nothing.
And we'll say nothing about it. We will absolutely just move on.
We won't mention him.
Not talk about it. We'll actually talk about the week before where he did great and just completely forget that week existed when he
just pretend he was on bye. QJ gets 4 bye weeks. Yeah. Everybody else gets 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, we want to get into a few things today. The first thing we want to talk about is something that we've been coming back to every episode, and that's just we're learning more about defenses, right? And different matchups and how we can take advantage of that. And every week comes with new information. We just gained 33% more information this week than we had before.
Repeating, of course.
And so we want to talk about a few things that are emerging. And I know that Tags, you specifically wanted to talk about the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. It's funny because last week that game I was watching it kind of targeting the Bears defense because I was expecting them to be the one that would be letting up all the points. But Cowboys definitely are a team to watch because they've given up almost 1,200 yards of offense and 92 points in 3 games. And that ranks as the second worst 3-game stretch in their franchise history in terms of yardage allowed. And I know what you're thinking. They've so their defense actually has been okay against the run. They've let up a bit over 300 yards in 3 games, which is not great, but is not completely terrible. What really stands out to me is that they've let up almost 900 yards passing in just 3 games. And I know what you're thinking. They're probably against like the passing powerhouses in the league. The passing powerhouses of the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants and the Chicago Bears. You know, offenses that are known for just lighting up through the air.
Well, those are all great quarterbacks, right? None of them would ever get benched.
Yeah, definitely not Russell Wilson, who
definitely
put
not
up like
Russell
400 yards and 3 touchdowns. So they're definitely, and they've funny thing, who could have guessed that they'd have 0 pass rush by trading Micah Parsons? Nobody could have predicted this. In 3 games against those offenses, they've only had 4 sacks total, which quarterbacks have all day to pass against them. Mm-hmm. So they're definitely a team to note because every single team that they've gone up against has just lit it up against them. And I'm kind of already looking towards the future to the playoff schedules. Their playoff matchups for the fantasy football playoffs is the Minnesota Vikings, Chargers, and Commanders. So when I see that schedule, I'm kind of looking, what passing pieces do I want to pluck from all those offenses? You're kind of looking for a combination of who's attainable. You're not going to get Ladd for cheap. You're not going to get Herbert for cheap. You're definitely not getting Daniels for cheap. But I like to target kind of the attainable pieces that could put up wide receiver 2 numbers. And for these teams, I'm specifically targeting the passing. I'm not scared of their rush defense either. Their rush defense is awful. But I think there's a lot of value that could be had by snagging a Keenan Allen. I know you just traded Keenan Allen for a second in one of our leagues. And I tried to buy him from you. I didn't have a second until 2028.
Yeah, full transparency for everybody. I threw, this is a league that I'm we did the startup this offseason. It was an auction startup. And Yeah, I think I honestly, I don't even think I bid on Keenan. I think I added Keenan on waivers because he wasn't signed yet.
Yeah.
I added him on waivers afterwards because I had some roster spots and I was a full rebuild. But I was like, he was on waivers. Amari Cooper was the other one. I added those two on the same day. And then Keenan's going off now. And so I put him on the trade block and I said, somebody come give me a second and it gets an instant accept. That's what I put. And then I got tags. I got 4 offers of either 2/3. I got 3 offers of 2/3. And then I got an offer of a third and a fourth. And I was like, guys, I told everybody, I was like, I'm going to hold out. And then last night, somebody sends me a 2027 second, and I'm a man of my word, instant accept.
I'm still a little bit upset about that.
Well, yeah, I told you I would come back to your 28 second if I didn't get anything.
You said it was an instant accept, and
you never sent me the 28 second.
But it was a verbal agreement.
It was a verbal agreement. Well, I want really quickly before you continue, I want to go back to, you said you're not worried about so we're talking about the Cowboys. And I think that what is attractive about the passing defense as opposed to the run defense is that the Cowboys aren't just this horrible all-around team that are just going to get blown out every game.
Yeah.
If we look at that, their offense is competent, right? CeeDee's obviously out for a few weeks, but Dak is a very competent quarterback. And so it's not going to be the situation where teams are going to be spending the entire second half just running on them. Right? That's not what we want. We want these shootouts like the Bengals last year. Right? We talked about this. We want these shootouts where the defense is letting up so many points, but also the opposing offenses, they have to score and they have to throw the ball because the offense is able to score. Yeah. And so I think that's even more why we're targeting those pass catchers and quarterbacks as opposed to the running backs with the Dallas Cowboys.
And you saw it this past week. Like they fell down 2 or 3 touchdowns behind the Bears, and the Bears did not let up. Because you look at the other side, you see Dak, you see Lamb, you see Pickens, you see Javonte, who's really caught on this year. They have the firepower on offense where even if they do fall behind, the Cowboys fall behind by 2 or 3 touchdowns, you kind of see the other opposing offenses, they don't really let up because they know they have the firepower to be able to shoot their way back into the contest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of any Dallas matchup's kind of a perfect combination of really terrible defense and really good offense, like we saw with the Bengals last year. And it's already kind of shaping up to be that kind of situation where teams want to pile on the points against them because they know they have the offensive firepower on the other side to put up points fast. So they don't let off the gas at all during the game. So
yeah, exactly.
That's a beautiful combination that I love to target in fantasy.
That's what we want, right? Everybody was so huge on the Bengals last year, and those games were so big for fantasy near the end. And so yeah, Keenan Allen playing them. Debo is another one. Debo Samuel playing against the Cowboys in the playoffs there. He's a good vet target. Terry McLaurin too. I mean, why not? I think that he should, missing training camp, he obviously had a slow start, but he should definitely pick it up over these next few weeks.
And it's worth noting that the defense has been getting torn up by zone passing. Their player personnel in Dallas is really set for man-to-man defense. Yeah. And currently they're trying to push them into a zone concept that just doesn't work. So you see a lot of these zone receivers that are good at picking out the soft spots in a zone. Like Keenan is going to have 150 yards against them. Yeah. He's one of the best receivers at attacking a zone concept. So I'm kind of looking at receivers like that. With the Commanders, who is a super buy low, I also see Jalen Lane. He's been showing some promise the last few weeks. He's one that I could see picks up a lot of steam by the time that playoff schedule gets here. And we've already seen him kind of flash in spurts with a connection with Jaden Daniels. So I like picking up him if you can get him for a third. I would love just picking him, stashing him on my bench, and then hoping he kind of picks up production into a solid flex option by the time playoffs get here.
Yeah, I like that. I think that people were excited about Luke McCaffrey a year ago.
Yeah.
And that hasn't really, I know he had a touchdown, I think this week or last, but that hasn't really turned into anything. Jalen Lane could definitely be a guy who emerges as the third wide receiver in that offense. There is room to target the tight ends here as well. With that much passing volume against the Dallas Cowboys, a guy like Hawkinson, who is playing them in the playoffs, or Zach Ertz, right, on the Commanders. If you're a contending team and you don't have a Brock Bowers, a Trey McBride, and everybody else, I mean, George Kittle when he comes back, but everybody else, it's pretty much you're rotating based on a matchup, right? And so if you can go into the playoffs with 2 or 3 guys that you're happy to throw out into your lineup with the right matchup, that's what's going to win you a championship, right? Playing Zach Ertz in the playoffs and he goes off for 80 yards and a touchdown, right?
Yeah, same with Addison. They got the Vikings in week 1. Yep. Addison's great at picking apart the zone. And Addison coming off of the suspension could be a nice buy target before he hops into that lineup.
I do like that. I think maybe even give it a week with Addison. He might start a little slow, and that would be completely normal, right? It's his first game of the year. He's been suspended, right? Maybe take advantage of a slow start and try and pick him up on the cheap there.
Yeah, love that.
The next thing we want to talk about is do a little rookie running back update, because there was some big developments this week with everybody, really. I mean, we can start with Amari and Hampton. Najee, unfortunately, goes down with the Achilles. You hate to see it. He works his way back after the fireworks incident, and then the Achilles tear. And it's one of those, it's just, as soon as you see it, you just know.
Yeah.
What I saw, I noticed it looked like he was supposed to get that handoff, and Herbert was a little flustered, or maybe it was play action, but Herbert was a little flustered when he saw him just hit the ground. But as soon as you see that step off the back foot, immediately goes down, you knew it was done.
Yeah, those non-contact injuries are always, you just know, you're like, well, they're probably done for the season. Yeah. And then you saw it with it's gonna be interesting to see if they try to work a RB2 into the mix there to pick up a little bit of Najee slack, or if they just give all the reins to Hampton, because we saw Hampton come in at that point, took 100% of the carries and did well with them. I mean, 25 touches for 129 yards and a touchdown. And
6 receptions, the biggest thing,
too? Yeah, 7 targets, 6 receptions on that, which is what we really hope to see from him. So him being incorporated into the passing game like he was that game is really comforting to see as a Hampton owner.
Yeah.
Because we've been a little stressed the last few weeks.
Well, yeah, he has the profile to be a 3-down bell cow, right? And he had the receiving work in college at UNC, and I think that Hassan Haskins or whoever else they grab and they add to the squad, Najee's not great, but he's better than those guys.
Yeah.
And I think that Najee is good enough, former first-round pick, obviously, to spell Hampton a little bit in his rookie year. These guys aren't. And I really do think that we're going to see a 70+% of the snaps workload for Hampton here, which is awesome to hear.
All the Kamani Vidal truthers last year are going to be like, now's its time to shine. He's coming back.
Exactly. Yeah, so Hampton, it's wheels up. I mean, obviously his value shouldn't have dipped, and we said this on the podcast. A slow start in the first 2 weeks of a rookie running back's career, unless you're Caleb Johnson, shouldn't really have an effect.
Pour one out for Caleb.
It's not like he's getting healthy scratch, right? He's a first-round pick. We're not worried about Najee long-term, and that's what we're thinking about in Dynasty, right? But it is good to see that we are going to get some production this year, and if you're a contender who ended up with Hampton, I have a team that this year I still had a bunch of picks because I was at the end of a rebuild, and I decided to sort of make a push, added some contending pieces, and I have Hampton on that team, and I was a little worried that, okay, this isn't even a guy that I'm going to be able to start right now, and as I'm trying to get some wins on the board, right? And so now that he's a locked and loaded high end RB2, low end RB1, I'm really excited for that moving forward.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me was seeing that receiving workload, because he hasn't really shown that the first 2 games. So seeing him get 7 targets, I mean, Herbert's not going to throw the ball 47 times every game. Or maybe he will, because that's kind of just how the Chargers have been rolling lately.
Yeah, I mean, it's not at all what we expected, right?
You've seen Harbaugh put a lot of trust into just telling Herbert, hey, go make plays. Like, go sling it.
I mean, is it crazy to say Herbert's like a leader in the clubhouse for the MVP race right now?
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be.
He's playing incredibly. The Chargers are 3-0.
And he's got to be talked about in that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, 3 divisional wins. Like, they started Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos.
And that's a great stretch, because all 3...
Immediately 3 division wins on the board.
Very, very difficult matchups.
Yeah, and I think like the Chargers are like... They're like America's team that like people don't really talk about as much. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like everybody likes Justin Herbert. Everybody's rooting for the Chargers. They're finally showing that they can really dominate games. Like, they're not this are they in it, are they out it team. They seem to be really legit this year. And Hampton being on such a good offense is huge. Somebody who's not on a good offense is Ashton Genty. It just looks, it's brutal. Like the Raiders, I think they have the them and the Titans are the bottom 2 for I think it's like how close they are to the line of scrimmage when they get hit.
Yeah.
I forget what the exact stat is called, but basically Genty is getting hit behind the line of scrimmage.
Yards before contact.
Yards before contact. He has the lowest of, it's him and Tony Pollard. Like the Raiders it's every time he's out. I saw this meme and it was like Genty every time he gets the ball, and it was just photoshopped of the entire offensive line not there. Like he's just in such a bad situation that it's tough to see a much production in year 1 here.
Watching him, and funny enough, Hampton, because I don't know how the Chargers offensive line is incredible at pass blocking and awful at run blocking. I never understood how like you can have a line that's great at one thing and not great at the other. And you see kind of both of those guys, they just get hit immediately when they try to run the ball. I think the fact that the Chargers passing offense is so productive is helping. You kind of see it already. Is helping Hampton finding some room in that defense to run, because the defense has to start accounting for those receiving weapons. Mainly Megatron 2.0, Quentin Johnston.
They got to account for him. He's a real threat downfield, man. You know.
But the Raiders don't have that. And maybe
like
this week
Thornton
it changes now that Trey Tucker is apparently the
Trey
greatest
Tucker's
wide
apparently
receiver
the best
in the
wide
world.
receiver of all time. Yeah, exactly.
It's like the Gabe Davis game 2.0, and now he's going to vanish from the league in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But they don't have the same passing proficiency to be able to take the stress off of Genty. I mean, Bowers has been incredibly disappointing this year. If you're a Bowers owner, you're just looking at this production like, dude.
He's dealing with the knee injury, and he looks a little like he looks a little like he's laboring out there a tiny bit. And so I want to see. He's the type of guy who I think is good enough to rise above a bad offense. And look, the offense is better than it was last year. I mean, they were dealing with Aiden O'Connell, and Gardner Minshew, and I think Geno's better than that. And so yeah, I do have hope that when Bowers heals up a little bit, continues to heal up,
but that offensive,
he'll return to his form, but it's terrible.
Needs to get something figured out, because Genty. I like him once he can get to the second level with breaking tackles. He can't break offensive or defensive line and linebacker tackles like he was in college.
No.
And especially when he's getting swarmed by 2 to 3 people at once.
Yeah. And he's had a few good moments, like a few truck sticks, things like that, like bouncing off tackles that, was the whole draw. Like the contact balance was the biggest thing for Genty, right? Like the fact that you cannot tackle this guy.
Yeah.
And we knew that once he gets to the NFL, compared to the Mountain West, it's not even it's hard to call them both football. Like, it's just not the same game at all. And obviously he's going to get tackled easier, but the problem is now that there's more opportunity to tackle him because the offense is so bad and because the line is so bad.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is a indictment on his ability. But you do need to consider the fact that this offense isn't very good and it doesn't have much hope of getting much better quickly. Yeah. So how do you value those two in relation to each other? Because Genty was obviously the clear-cut 101.
Yeah.
And Hampton, for me at least, was very close behind him, and he was my locked and loaded 102 in most standard formats. But how do you view them in relation to each other as of now?
I still think Genty is the lead for me, but it's going to be interesting the next few weeks. If Hampton keeps taking steps forward, being this productive all-around receiver, getting the receiving workload and the rushing workload, being a workhorse back, I'm going to have a tough time keeping Hampton behind Genty. And they've hardly used Genty in the passing game at all.
Yeah.
That's also something that's kind of... he had a few bad pass block whiffs, but overall, he's not being used in the passing game at all. And you can't tell me that, like, Sincere McCormick or any of those guys.
Dylan Laube is out there.
Laube out there doing pass blocking. Like, you can't tell me those guys are better than Genty at it. I don't understand why Genty's not being used in the passing game.
Yeah, like, they need to figure it out. They drafted him, what is it, 6th overall? Like,
yeah,
that's premier weapon that you need to figure out.
Draft capital.
Yeah, and you need to figure out how to get him in space. But like, I feel like the most likely scenario here is that, or a very likely scenario that I could see, is Hampton finishes as like a top 8 running back on the year. And Genty's like the RB 20,
14, 15.
Yeah. Like,
which at that range is like, you can find a lot of guys that can replace that production.
And he has the volume, but he's like 3.8 a carry because the offensive line sucks. And then you go into this offseason and Hampton is just consensus valued ahead of him.
Yeah. Can I pitch a new theory I just came up with?
Absolutely.
Can we consider that the 106 spot in NFL drafts is cursed for offensive skill positions? Because you see Marvin Harrison Jr. the year before, who is clearly not being used to his skill set.
Well, Tags, you're having a Freaky Friday mix-up because Malik Neighbors was the 6th overall pick.
No, was MHA 4?
Marv was 4.
Okay, well, my theory.
So maybe we're fine.
Yeah, I think we're fine then. Yeah,
because Neighbors is also great in a terrible situation.
As a Neighbors owner this past week, it was not a fun week.
Oh my god, he's just getting beat up all over the place.
Yeah, maybe Jackson Dart coming in this week is gonna help.
Yeah, against the Chargers.
I just imagine they just run nonstop like QB reads the entire game that go nowhere, because that's the only packages he's been in all year.
I mean, I'm excited to see Scadaboo with a full workload. He's another rookie running back that is interesting. We can get to him in a minute here. We did also want to talk about Quinshawn, who this week ends up getting the full workload. Looks really, really good against a very good Packers defense. I mean, Quinshawn seems to be the bright spot in that awful Cleveland Browns offense.
Maybe the real question all along is Judkins or Genty.
I mean,
too soon,
I don't.
Man, so the Browns' offensive line, terrible. They're so bad.
Yeah,
and he ran for 94 yards and a touchdown on 18 touches against the Packers,
and they just lost,
who have like one of the best defensive lines in the league.
Yeah, and the Browns just lost DeJuan Jones, right?
I believe so.
The tackle, yeah.
He's been shaky, so I don't know if it's really a loss. It's kind of just who's the next guy up who can do things.
Exactly. Yeah, but you're right. You're absolutely right. Quinshawn looked great against that really good Packers line, defensive line. And
the biggest thing for me was he came in, took 100% workload.
Immediately.
Like, Samson had 1 carry.
Yeah,
That's the only
Jerome Ford is
the only
an
person.
afterthought.
The only person who touched the ball that game was Quinshon. So it's pretty crazy how fast he's established himself as the alpha dog there. It'll be curious to see if Samson, if they kind of were just like, hey, we're gonna give you a full workload and see how you hold up. It'll be interesting to see if they scale back this next week and start working Samson in a little bit more. But if we have another week where it's like Quinshon taking 90%, 80% of carries, man, his value is gonna skyrocket.
Yeah,
He might jump Travion Henderson.
Well, like to me, I mean, when I'm in rookie draft season, something that I try to do is not to have really strong takes on the skill of a player, because I do not consider myself a scout. I do not consider myself somebody who
not with that attitude.
No, I do not consider myself somebody who can evaluate talent. And so when Quinshon and Travion get the exact same draft capital, they're both very good prospects. They're talked about similarly in the draft process. I sort of just grouped them together. And I know a lot of people like Travion more, and they like the situation in New England more. And you're right, like Quinshon could easily jump him in value here. Obviously, he tanked because of the legal stuff. But moving over to Travion, like now you get the game where he has two really bad penalties, and it gets him benched. And then Ramondre has a huge day. And then this game, we get two Ramondre Stevenson fumbles and an Antonio Gibson fumble. And it looks like they need, like, we all know that Travion Henderson is the most talented running back in this backfield. Will Mike Vrabel allow him to show it to us because of the mistakes that we've seen from the vets who he supposedly trusts more?
I expect Henderson to get at least 50% of touches, maybe move up into the 60% range this week. Yeah. Just because that's kind of historically what Vrabel has done whenever teams show those kind of issues. And then we saw it on Sunday. Ramondre didn't touch the ball again after those fumbles. So I expect Henderson to take on a little bit more of a jump in volume this week, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for sure.
Well, yeah, because I think it seems to me like Vrabel is kind of taking it game by game, sort of. Like, you make a mistake in the game, okay, you're benched that week.
Yeah.
But then he kind of just reverts back to this weird rotation that he has, like the week after.
Every week.
Yeah, exactly. And so if that's the case and we're running out with a clean slate, then it's just like, okay, I hope Ramondre fumbles on the first drive so that Travion can show out the rest of the game. You know what I mean? And you don't want to be relying on that. Like, he's not a guy that you can put in your starting lineup right now, like confidently at least.
I don't know. I feel like you can rely on Ramondre to fumble every week. So as a lifelong Patriots fan,
it's predictable for sure.
It's pretty. Yeah. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And if you wanna be a scout, there's two things you do. There's one, if a player you're high on hits, you go, see, I told you. Scataboo, we all know it. We all knew he'd be a productive monster. And if they don't hit, they can be year 3, year 4. Just be like, it's not the system. They need more time. You know, you can't make the call yet. So if you want to be a scout, you just have to go by that playbook.
You can always wiggle out of any take, right? Speaking of Scataboo, though, like talking about these rookie running backs, I'm really excited to see what he can do with the full workload. He just is so much fun to watch. Like the only thing in his head is how hard can I smash my head into this guy's chest?
He really is like, who am I headbutting this round? He's just looking around like you.
He just wants the contact.
Dives right in. If there was targeting in the NFL, he would be called every time for headbutting.
Oh yeah. But I love the
offensive targeting. The first time it's ever been called.
Yeah, exactly. I think like he's just the type of guy who is going to turn those 2-yard carries into 5. And I don't really care if his 40 times sucks or if he's not the best athlete. Like, that's not always the prototype that you need. And I think he fell to the 4th round because of that, right? Because he's not the best athlete and this kind of stuff. But I think that he was already sort of taking over for Tracy, and now Tracy has the dislocated shoulder. And so Scat should see the majority workload this week, and I'm really excited to see what he does with it.
Yeah, he's just so reliable too. Like, he's got great hands. He has
the receiving upside.
Did you see the guy he like absolutely leveled in pass blocking?
Oh my gosh, he's an absolute dog.
He's just one of those players
dog
where
meter.
He needs to find someone to scrap with. He's like the Baker Mayfield of running backs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So he's such a fun player. And what do you think his price is now? I've got Scattaboo in a few leagues. I've had a few people send a second for him, and I'm like, I'm not selling for a second. But at the same time, a first feels too much. So I feel like he's in a weird limbo zone where it's like, I don't know what his actual value is.
I think you probably... I find it so hard to value this running back class because I think in a lot of other years, Scattaboo, Bashal Tootin, they would go in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
But because I feel like so many teams were looking at it like, okay, if we're not getting a Travion Henderson or Quinshon in the 2nd round, we're just going to punt it to day 3 because there are so many guys that are like, this is such a deep running back class. And so guys like Scattaboo, who were touted as could be a late 2nd round pick, could be a 3rd round pick, they fall to day 3. Because teams are just deciding to wait. And so, like, I had him as like a mid-late 2nd rounder this offseason. And obviously that's completely based on the draft class, right? And the value doesn't stay the same year to year. But I think what you're talking about with his values in limbo, I think it's a situation where, like, if I have him and I'm offered a late first, I probably take it. But if I'm offered a second that's projected early, I probably just sit with Scattaboo.
There's some interesting trades here. There's Scattaboo for a 2027 first and a 2026 third. Scattaboo for Colston Loveland. Scattaboo for a second and Jawan Johnson.
Did you say Scattaboo for Loveland?
Yeah. Which I'm surprised. That's a little
reactionary to me.
Yeah, I think I'm taking Loveland.
Me too, for sure. But, I mean, he's had a slow start, but you don't draft a guy 10th overall and then decide his fate based on 3 games.
Yeah. Here's a Scattaboo and a second for a first, which I always love those kind of deals.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. Like, I think if you can get a late first, I think you probably take it just because of that value is going to hold. But
yeah, currently on Keep Trade Cut, he's being valued in the same range as Keon Coleman, Jalen Waddle, Colston Loveland, Terry McLaurin. Bill is the next running back below him, and then a 2028 first is all kind of in the same grouping.
Okay, which I think is fine. And I think that a lot of owners will probably want to see what they have in him this first week.
Yeah.
And
I guess my concern, which is the obvious concern, is can he hold up with his run style? Pacheco looks soft compared to how Scattaboo runs.
Well, the thing is, Pacheco only ever punishes the ground. He never punishes his opponents.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. He's just pissed at the turf.
Yeah, exactly.
So so super interesting to see the value changes on those rookie running backs, and I'm curious to watch them to see how they change. I know we talked about doing a rookie redraft, essentially.
I was just gonna say.
Little teaser
this
for
conversation
future episodes.
This conversation just makes me want to push that episode up. But I think we do need to hold off. We need to get I want to get 8 weeks of a sample before we do something like that. Maybe we could push it to 6. We'll see.
Man, people love mock drafts. Let's just do a weekly redo of the rookie draft. People are gonna love it.
But I do. Yeah, exactly.
Content.
I'm very excited for that because the rookies are always the hardest guys to value at the beginning of the year when their stock is fluctuating so much. And so yeah, it'll be really fun to see where that shakes out when we do that episode. Were there any other rookie running backs you wanted to talk about here before we move on?
I don't think so. Bill was just okay.
I don't like how much he's splitting that still.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a blowout. Like they were ahead for most of the game.
But honestly, that should mean more Bill, would it not?
It should, but I mean, what was it? One of the Rodriguez, or I think it was McNichols, had like the 70-yard touchdown.
Yeah,
right?
McNichols had a long touchdown. Rodriguez had I think he had like 30 some yards.
Bill had a touchdown, which saved his game.
Yeah, but he had what, 10 touches for like 28 yards and a touchdown. Like
it's the Mariota offense, so I don't want to take too much because obviously the game plan is going to be different. But we haven't yet seen him get a significant workload, and he's still like, for some reason, he in redraft, and I don't understand this, he's still being valued as like a top 24 running back, and I don't get it at all. He has shown absolutely nothing to be worthy of that price tag.
But have you seen the memes though?
Oh yeah, but he has a funny name, so we love him.
Dude, it happens every year. It happens every year where there are players that get funny memes and their value skyrockets after them.
I really do think it really shouldn't. I think you would brush that off because it shouldn't have an effect at all. But I think it does. Genuinely, it gets you more excited.
We should do we'll make a note for like our off-season discussion. Things to learn or things to note from the season.
Things to just ignore. Plug your ears. Like, honestly.
Not even ignore it because it could be a selling window. Like, do you sell Bill based on the memes?
Honestly,
I remember about it.
Do you remember when Josh Dobbs had that crazy run? I think it was 2023, and people were calling him the Pastronaut. The
Pastronaut, dude.
And he was getting sold for like a second.
Yeah,
because like Kevin O'Connell gave him one good game.
I saw him go for a late first in one of my leagues that year because they were convinced that like he's going to sign a long-term contract with a team and be a starting quarterback for the next 4 to 5 years based on the memes. So if we're talking Dynasty, there are sell windows based on memes. And this is where
nobody else, and no other Dynasty podcast, nobody other Dynasty podcast is going to tell you to sell because of a nickname, but we will. And that's why you come here.
We're gonna do a whole, like, in the off season, we'll do a whole analysis of like, are these A tier memes and does that create a sell window?
Yeah, I'll make like a graph that has like
a little tier list,
Dynasty value, nickname, occurrence, and we'll see how it
honestly could be a fun project for the off season to be how much do you see a value spike at the release of certain memes?
This is the research that the Dynasty space is lacking, and we are here to provide it.
Someone's got to do it, you know.
Exactly.
Taking one for the team.
The last thing that we want to talk about here, I've been kind of fleshing this out over the weekend. It started. I want to have a quarterback conversation, and specifically a quarterback valuation conversation when it comes to Dynasty. And this basically came out of Michael Penix and JJ McCarthy not looking very good. And Michael Penix, it's a weird one because I'm wondering if we just overlooked the fact that he's basically a rookie. And just because of one game in 2024 against the season over, like on the beach Carolina Panthers, who were awful, we sort of said, okay, he would be fine. And like nobody was worried about Drake London coming into 2025.
If anything,
and the same thing,
a lot of London owners were excited. Like,
yeah, because he's going to sling it and all this stuff. Yeah.
And we saw him in the few games he was in last year, really hyper target London.
Yeah.
And we saw that with Pitts, and Pitts has been pretty solid this year. But it's with Penix in particular, I'm struggling if it's just a one-off thing, because there's a weird stat where Bryce Young is undefeated against the Falcons in his career.
A good Michael Penix stat is that Michael Penix has never won a game in which the opposing team has scored more than 7 points.
That's not great.
No, it's really not.
Room for improvement.
Yeah, I guess so, right? But so him not looking great, JJ McCarthy not looking great. People are talking about how he's getting shadow benched and that he doesn't actually have an ankle injury. There's a conspiracy going on that JJ McCarthy is getting shadow benched. He doesn't have an ankle injury, and they're just putting him on the sidelines and they don't want to embarrass him. Obviously, that's probably ridiculous. But he hasn't looked great. And Carson Wentz was able to operate that offense perfectly fine against the terrible Bengals defense. But then there's also like CJ Stroud, who in a bad situation, but he looks terrible. And we all witnessed the CJ Stroud roller coaster of value when he was the QB3 after his rookie season, and all this stuff. But basically, looking at all of this brought me to a take that I've sort of soft thought for a while, and now I'm just hard launching it. And this is how I am going to value quarterbacks going forward. I believe that Dynasty should be played in 3 to 5 year windows. And so if you are not a quarterback who has either the rushing upside to be an every week lock into your lineup, or you're like Joe Burrow and you're going to be in a situation where you're likely to throw 35 plus touchdowns, I think all these guys should be valued relatively the same regardless of age. And I'm going to try to flesh this out as best as I can, okay? So I think Dynasty should be played in 3 to 5 year windows, but I also think that it should be played in 1 year windows. And that is because what happens over the course of a season, the points that are scored affects the stock of a player, right? If you think that a player is going to play poorly, or if they have played poorly, it affects their stock regardless of what you think they will do in the future, right? So here are the names that so far in 2025 are locked into your lineup. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, and Joe Burrow if he was healthy. These are fringe names who you're likely starting every week, but you can absolutely rotate them out in a bad matchup. Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Baker Mayfield. All of which have somewhat like a little bit of rushing upside, but not like the guys that I talked about previously, right? Not like the top 4. So now that's 9 guys who I do think are more valuable right now, in redraft at least, than the rest. But here's the rest. And with that, I'm going to tell you where they were valued on Keep Trade Cut in quarterback rankings on June 1st, middle of the offseason. Patrick Mahomes, quarterback 6. CJ Stroud, quarterback 10. Bo Nix, quarterback 11. Jordan Love, 12. Purdy, 13. JJ McCarthy, 14. Kyler Murray, 15. Trevor Lawrence, 16. Cam Ward, 18. Michael Penix, 19. Dak, 21. Jared Goff, 22. So I think that the only attraction for these guys is job security, right? Because it's not because you're starting them every week. These are guys that you're only streaming when they have good matchups. So now, obviously, they are more valuable in a Superflex league because you have the second quarterback spot. And every time you're in a startup, it's the QB2 standoff that people have, where everybody thinks that they need to grab one, and so everybody drafts them really high. What I'm saying is that they're all the exact same. There is no need for me personally to draft, to pay up for CJ Stroud over Dak Prescott. Because for the next 3 years, barring injury, both of those guys are going to be playing quarterback. Their jobs are secure, and they are going to be streamable quarterbacks in good matchups, right? At some point, Jordan Love or Brock Purdy, they're going to throw 35 touchdowns. They're going to finish top 5, have a great year, probably be overdrafted the year after. but there's no evidence that these guys repeat this. And then you have completely unproven guys like JJ McCarthy and Michael Penix, where you're paying a premium for the youth. Like JJ McCarthy's the quarterback 14, Dak Prescott's the quarterback 21 on June 1st. You're paying a premium because he's young. But even if JJ McCarthy hits his ceiling, is he the type of quarterback to be in your lineup every single week? He's probably not.
I think with JJ, I think people saw that offensive system and saw if Darnold can be productive, JJ should be productive. And we saw Darnold finish as a QB1 just last year in that system. Mm-hmm. So I think that factors in quite a lot. I think when you're looking at those players, the JJs, the Penix, you see the youth, which youth is always enticing in Dynasty. There's like, you just naturally be like, oh, I could have this player for 10 years and not have to change my quarterback spot. Yeah. Which realistically,
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. But you're saying there's a chance. But yeah. I think there's an appeal there with the Falcons being loaded with a ton of offensive weapons, and then JJ being in the Viking system with Justin Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, all those great weapons, that you see the pathway to them paying off on that value. But you see, I guess in startups, pretty much every startup we did this offseason, you saw the top 6 go, which were the 5 elite rushers and Burrow. And then you see a range starting in the second round where you start to get the quarterbacks that primarily are built on passing production, but have rushing upside. They can get 300 yards rushing. They can get 400 yards rushing. And then you see just the blah tier of quarterbacks where they're all the same player, like production wise. They might like last year we had a tier of these players that had 8 players that were all within 50 points of each other at the end of the year. So normally, like my strategy in Dynasty startups this offseason was, I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait till the back end of that tier. It's not as fun not being able to pick your guy. But ultimately, like, what's the difference between Dak, Trevor Lawrence, Goff, Tua, like all these quarterbacks that at the end of the year are going to put up essentially the same production?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, I think my whole point here is that a 10-year age gap between Dak and JJ McCarthy just doesn't matter that much at the quarterback position, especially when you take into account that one guy has a quarterback 5 finish on his record and the other hadn't played a single snap in the NFL. And on June 1st, JJ McCarthy is the quarterback 14 and Dak's at 21. It just doesn't, to me, there is no argument for not having all of these guys clumped exactly together. And like you said, just wait. If I can get like Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, okay, great, right? But if you miss out on that upside tier, everybody else is just the same. They're a starter. You might have to play them every week, but you're not going to love the matchup every week. And so instead of getting CJ Stroud at the end of the 3rd round in a startup because he's 24, just take Dak at the beginning of the 6th. And for the next 3 years, you will be just as happy, if not more, because of offensive situation, because of pedigree, because of weapons, all this kind of stuff, right? You can get the exact same production for way cheaper. And this is why I don't have any CJ Stroud. I don't have a lot of Jordan Love. I don't have a lot of Brock Purdy. I don't have any JJ McCarthy. What I do have is I have a lot of the vets who just got left behind because, Jared Goff's 31. It's just the youth, and we can flesh this out more in the offseason when we're talking about startup rankings and stuff like that. But I just think that what I've seen so far right now, and I want to be held to this, is that they're all the same. And I'm just going to, from now on, treat them as they are all the exact same.
I think the one that sticks out for me is Goff, who's like low-key been kind of a underrated GOAT the past 4 years. Past 4 years, he's finished as a QB1. And every single year, you could probably buy him for a late first. I saw a lot of leagues that were selling him for the 110, the 111, 108. And for QB1 production, he's done that every year for 4 years. But it's not a sexy name. And he doesn't have the youth. Yeah. So if I can sell JJ McCarthy for Goff and a second, or literally any kind, give me any kind of plus on top. Yeah. If I'm seriously contending, that needs to be a smash, because you see a lot of these guys, like a lot. It's interesting because like in the past 3 years, there's been only a handful of quarterbacks who hasn't hit 300 yards rushing that makes QB1 numbers. And most of those guys Goff has reached that list every single year. You see guys like Trevor Lawrence pop in 1 year and then drop to QB 15 the next year. You see guys like even Baker kind of pops in 1 year, pops in, pops out. Same with Tua. Tua was a QB1 a year ago in 2023 and then dropped out again. I think there's a lot more variance between those if you can't put up a baseline of like 300 to 400 yards rushing. But Goff has been consistent, and Goff is like my one guy in that tier where it's like he just does it every year. He's in a loaded system. He's kind of my one, like in a couple startups, there were guys like Stroud, Bo Nix, Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, JJ McCarthy, Penix, Lawrence, Dak were all taken before Goff. And Goff's going to outproduce them every single year. So it's interesting looking back at like the startup drafts and being like, yeah, their only plus is age. But if we're looking in a 3 to 5 year window, Goff's going to be productive for another 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. And like what I'm saying is like the ceiling for like JJ McCarthy and for Jared Goff, I feel like it's the same. Yeah. In like a 1 year thing. Like Jared Goff could have a weird year where he throws 40 touchdowns. JJ McCarthy, if everything works out, could do the same thing. So, and I understand that there has to be consideration for how value will change. Because if Jared Goff, like Dak Prescott did that and his value didn't go up like crazy, right? He finishes the quarterback 5 and he was still like a 4th, 5th, 6th round startup pick because of the age. Whereas if JJ McCarthy does that, maybe he gets the CJ Stroud treatment. But I think that after what happened with CJ Stroud, people will be a little more cognizant of that and like not try to push him up like crazy just because of a good rookie season.
And to me, this screams, say Cam Ward lights up the rest of this season and he gets in that QB1 range, or say any other quarterback that comes in future years puts up a Stroud finish and we see that value jump. Does that mean like anyone who's sold when Stroud was considered QB3 after his rookie year, they're probably hyped. They probably got a haul for him.
And it's weird because like I feel like everybody was saying to sell him. Like everything I was listening to was like, honestly, I think you'd rather just sell him, you know, like move off of him. This is his, like he doesn't have any rushing upside, so he would have to produce. Like I pulled up his rookie year stats. He averaged 18.4 points per game as a rookie. Finished quarterback 9. And then it was like, oh, well, if he does this forever, that's great. It's like, no, it's not. If you're not if you're not a top 6 quarterback, you're a streamer. You're a guy who is good in good matchups and bad in bad ones.
I think that production is a lot easier to replace. So if you can get a plus on and replace that same production with the same amount of production that's coming into your team, then I feel like that's like, you see any of these guys who don't have the rushing upside, if you see them have those kind of years, I need to be like, make a mental note of, yeah, that's the time to sell that guy, because that production's easy to replicate from other quarterbacks, and you can get a plus on top to get them, which is all about adding to your stockpile of assets in Dynasty. That's kind of what we've been talking about the last few episodes. And I think this is a great way to do that, is find those players that don't have the ability to reach 400 plus yards rushing. And when they have that season where they hit 40 yards, 40 passing touchdowns, breach into that top 4 like Dak did when he was finished like QB3 back in 2023. Like that should have been a huge sell year.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because it's not just startup value, right? It's if you have one of these guys and their value skyrockets, but you're looking at it like, okay, the ceiling here for production is very similar to a guy that I can get a huge plus with in a trade. You absolutely take that opportunity.
And that plus, hopefully that plus means you can upgrade another position, which is overall going to increase your points per game, which is why we play the game. We play fantasy football to get the highest points per game possible. So if you're getting 18 from points per game with Stroud, or if you're getting 17.6 points per game with Goff, if you can use the extra second you're getting back from there to upgrade a player from a Terry McLaurin up to like, I don't know, like a Drake London kind of player, then overall it's going to be a plus, because you're going to be increasing your points per game by that much. So I think it's factoring in your assets as a whole as a way of increasing your lineup to where you will be scoring more points if you get the plus on top of Goff to move from Stroud to Goff, or Stroud to even Tua. Like Tua's, he doesn't have the safety, but he puts up numbers like in that same range as them when he's healthy.
And the age difference at receiver actually matters.
Yeah.
And what we're saying here is that it just doesn't matter at quarterback. And so if you're able to...
No, not until they hit like the dreaded like 36.
Well, notice how we're not talking about Geno and Stafford and Rodgers.
Yeah.
Because it's done. And those guys do not have a 3 to 5 year window left of scoring fantasy points. But everybody else does. Yeah. Dak and Goff and Tua and Darnold. Like...
Once you see that 30, that big 3,
it scares people.
3 number in the front of the age, it's an instant discount on quarterbacks.
It's like people think that going from like trading Dak for Stroud is going to reset their team and set them up for the future. And it's like, okay, yeah, in 4 years when you win the league and Dak is still scoring points, like it's just, I don't. And I'm excited for the offseason when we can talk about startup rankings and things like that. But I think right now, even if I had a Michael Penix, a JJ McCarthy, a CJ Stroud share, I would be trying to capitalize on that and move them to a older, not more productive, but an older guy with a similar production profile, a similar ceiling, and getting a plus on top. I would do that right now.
Yeah. And it just kind of goes to the theme of like throughout the season, figuring out ways to improve your team, because players' values change and you need to find those right sell windows to be able to get out from a player and maximize the returns from that. So yeah, I think it's a fun thing to keep track of, because you kind of see it in startup that like probably late second round in a startup all the way up to the early 6th, those quarterbacks in that range are just like all kind of the same in terms of production you're going to get per year.
Yeah.
But the difference between getting a Garrett Wilson or a Puka, the difference between getting a Puka in round 2 compared to a DJ Moore in round 6 is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh yeah, you're lucky because you have CJ Stroud instead of Goff. Like it's not even close. It is not even close.
Yeah. Like the difference is I'm looking at one of our startups right now. Mm-hmm. You could get Puka and Dak, or you could get Patrick Mahomes and Jordan Addison. Which which duo is gonna score you more points per week?
Yep. Yeah, people are clinging on to Mahomes, and I think that if he doesn't, I don't see a world in which he goes back to what he was doing previously, throwing for 4,500 yards and all that. And I
even
think
then,
this offseason might be the offseason where he finally drops.
And even then, if he puts out that production, you're kind of buying him at the price of the production that is he would be getting in that ideal world. There's very few scenarios where he's going to raise value compared to where you bought him from, or outproduce his draft position there.
Yeah, I mean, right before his first bad year, he was like the QB1, right, in Dynasty, him or Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And if we get 3 years in a row now of this, where they're in this transitionary period where the weapons aren't great, I'm really excited for Worthy and Rice to both be back because maybe they'll finally be watchable. The running backs look terrible.
I just don't think he consistently hits that 40 passing yard touchdowns mark again.
No, I don't think so either. But I think that right now they can't run the ball and the receivers suck. When they can't run the ball and the receivers are good, maybe the production increases. And I have one specific Mahomes share where I drafted him at the 101 in 2023 and tried to move him, never happened, and now I just have like a mid quarterback 2 on my roster that I have to start every week, and so I'm hoping that
it's kind of stuck.
And I think the league's better when the Chiefs are throwing the ball like crazy, right?
Yeah, when they're fun again.
Yeah. Well, I think that is all we got for you guys.
Yeah, that's all, unless you want to talk some more QJ talk. I can.
We could do a separate pod every week.
We'll do a bonus QJ pod every single week.
We're gonna do a film watching pod on QJ where we dissect his best 9 routes.
Sign me up, please.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Please hit the like, subscribe. We will be back next week, obviously. Stay tuned for that mid-season rookie redraft. If you have any other ideas for things like that we could do in an episode coming up here, let us know in the comments. Really appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Later.